So if you haven't yet, to sign up for this Awakening Sovereignty workshop with me, you'll get the full download around what happens at birth and what happens to our sovereignty. That is prelingual. We don't. But when we have the awareness again, then the cells are remembering again. And what happens is then we get to have access to what actually we can clear. The early bird ends today, and I know the value of the workshop is life-changing. So I'm slowly but surely developing a little front-end website so that when I actually am going to push this in a big way, that Brave New Life and my own mailing list has had opportunity to tune in with it. And if their cells weren't called into it yet, well, I'm sure that what's going to roll out over the next 5 days is going to make some people be like, oh, I should have jumped into this 3 days ago. We come out of a Western programming that has not understood or seen through the illusions of this man-made societal framework, and what lies at the essence in everybody's being is a fundamental distrust in the world of men. And this comes mostly through birth, because we weren't asked, hey, do you want to be yanked out? Do you want to be cut from the source that actually grew you? Do you want to not have, hey, how do you feel about not having the placenta blood and the phytonutrients and the beautiful alchemical transformative, like life kickstarting essence? And when birth therefore is honored in a natural way, in ensuring that the continuum of birth is not severed, that the continuum of the natural order is upheld, we're going to find that later in life, these children know who they are from within. But wow, guess what? 90% of all babies born on this earth never get what it is to naturally leave the womb. And I'm not saying vaginal birth being the natural way alone. It's the placenta being released naturally from the womb, and all the chemical compounds that it still is pulsating into the baby. Those are hormonal infusions into the baby's beingness that it absorbs, that fire up all of these natural micro processes in the body of the baby. But when we wait, the will of a human being gets properly seated in the throne behind the navel port. And that's not just some spiritual froopy terminology. When we do this internal landscape navigation of bringing the will back into its proper seat behind the navel port in the alchemical realm that we're navigating, for everybody, there is a proper seat there. And that seat is always empty. And why that seat has been empty all this time is because will never actually got to come fully in. It got caught prematurely. In the essence, why the world is in the state that it is because birth is a violent process. And we say, well, who is violating who? We're violating the sovereignty of souls incarnate coming through this immaculate womb field that creates baby within in ways and means that we've just accepted that's how it is. But nobody can understand how a soul and a spirit actually comes into. It's like there's no answers for that. It's because it's a mystery, and it's supposed to be that. We can prod and try and make photos and scientifically explain it all, but it's a mystical creatrix of divine consciousness that gestates, that produces. And the funny thing is that it's totally natural. If it is a total natural process, it would only make sense for us to honor the natural order. And when we do, we are able to have children come into this world whole, as opposed to a part of themselves still being removed that never got to come in. Because we haven't known, we cannot necessarily heal that level of trauma without awareness. You can release it somatically, but if you don't bring awareness to what you released, then you don't really know what you released. You just released it from the body. But what many modalities don't do, they don't work on the reintegration of the part of self that was carrying all that trauma, because they don't know that that part has a name. And with that, I recognize that there's a lot that has been obscured and written out of our awareness purely because of the deeducation cult programming that we all went through, and the societal conditioning and the social engineering that is really all at work here. But that doesn't mean that we have to stay subject to that. No, the whole idea of awakening sovereignty is that we free ourselves of those illusionary fantasies and distortions by bringing awareness to it, by becoming aware of the falseness of those belief systems, and that they were never actually installed to really serve us. They were installed to control us, to limit us, so that we would limit ourselves, so that we would control ourselves, we would shame ourselves, we would deny ourselves certain freedoms. And just because 99% of the world around us is doing it like that, it doesn't make it natural. You can say, but that's what seems to be normal. Well, normal isn't natural. Yeah. So if we look at the natural order and the return to our own sovereignty being a path of coming back to that, we get to discover a lot of things that aren't talked about anywhere else. And I've studied sovereignty now for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. It's been an intriguing field. And I only found one disappointment after another, because it's all about fighting a government. It's all about reclaiming a birth certificate from the clutches of the corporate entities and the crown and the queen. And all of that may be true if you believe it. What I know about all of that, it's all human damage. Grown-up human beings practicing fantasies as if there's reality, as if it's reality. There is no queen. You may say, well, I'm still, I still have a bond thing that, yeah, it's a made-up fantasy that they are using to capitalize off your existence on this earth. You are not defined by a piece of paper. That document called your so-called passport is just a means to navigate, nothing else. It's not a control mechanism. It's just like, yeah, that's how we're doing it. I'm using this little thing that has apparently my corporate name on it so that I can navigate somewhere. If we get that little bit of sovereignty the masculine way, and we see through the illusionary fantasies of it all, we can actually start working on restoring sovereignty from within, which is the feminine path. It's nothing more real than returning into that wisdom, because the changing of the external conditions of a piece of paper that we've reclaimed, or a parking fine that we've avoided, all of that is beautiful. And we've all accomplished certain feats in our own lives by dealing with authority. Yeah. But what this Awakening Sovereignty workshop is about is dealing with that primary distrust in authority from the point where that distrust got created, where that got seeded. And that's real work, and that takes real awareness. And really, in the simplest form of what it takes your willingness to show up for that, if you want to re-enable that part of yourself. And that's what's on offer. So you're more than welcome to book in today.
Yes, I will do that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's kind of miraculous. And of course, the angels are lighting you up again, boy. Oh, you're lit up. I mean, the angels are surrounding you, and you are just the brightest light.
So wonderful.
Wow.
So wonderful.
Thank you.
So much love.
What a wonderful day.